You always knew that something inside you was different. You didn't know exactly what it was, but there was a kind of vibration that seemed to translate the world around you. As a child, perhaps you heard that your emotional intensity was a problem, something that needed to be controlled. Maybe you were told to calm down your feelings, to not be so sensitive, to stop feeling so much. It was as if your heart was an antenna, picking up everything happening around you. But when did you realize that this ability was not something to be suppressed, but instead your greatest strength? You gradually felt that your sensitivity was not just an emotional response, but rather a navigation system. At first, it was hard to understand what was happening, but little by little it became clearer. You were tuned into a higher frequency, a kind of radar for the energies, thoughts, and intentions of those around you. This became your guide. You started to notice that the environments you were in, the people you interacted with, the simple touch of someone, or the exchange of glances, all of these activated your internal antennas, and it was confusing. There were moments when you felt completely disconnected from everything, unable to comprehend the messages coming your way, as if the world around you was a tangled web of emotions and energies. But at other times, it was as if you had a clear vision, a perception of paths ahead, of decisions to come, of environments you should avoid or people you should get closer to. Gradually, you began to understand that your sensitivity was not just an emotional burden, but a kind of navigation system that directed you, guided you, and even protected you. The most interesting thing about all of this is that, upon realizing it, you began to see how the intensity of your feelings had a deeper purpose. They were, in many ways, like an emotional GPS, marking not only the safest directions, but also warning you of dangers that you couldn't see with your eyes. You started to listen to your intuition more clearly and strongly, as if it were your own internal compass. It was a force you had not known how to use until then, but you were beginning to understand it now. If before you felt vulnerable, perhaps even fragile, over time you realized that this vulnerability was transforming into a subtle power. Now, instead of fighting against your sensitivity, you began to use it to distinguish the energies around you. You started to identify clearly when something or someone was in tune with your own essence and when there was something that needed to be avoided. Your ability to feel deeply became your greatest ally. Now, when you approach a setting, a person, or a situation, you already know whether to move forward or take a step back. With each new encounter, with every new experience, you began to understand that your emotions were not something to be controlled, but rather an internal guide, like a compass that indicated whether you were on the right path or if you needed to change direction. Over time, you refined this navigation system. With each mistake, every time you ignored the feeling in your chest and allowed yourself to be swayed by external pressures, you felt the consequences of not listening to your internal antenna. This is how you began to notice something extraordinary. Your sensitivity not only protects you, but also guides you to the right places and people. When you felt this, everything started to make sense. Life ceased to be a game of chance or a series of hits and misses. It became a more conscious journey, where your emotions became your greatest compass. You now understand how powerful it is to be aware of what's happening within you, how your ability to feel is a way to read energies, intentions, and vibrations that aren't visible to the naked eye. This journey isn't easy. There will be times when you get lost. There will be times when you have to backtrack and adjust your course, and that's part of it. But increasingly, you are realizing that by trusting this emotional navigation system, you find your way. And more than that, you start to understand how the world around you begins to respond to the energy you radiate. Have you ever experienced the feeling of being in the right place at the right time, as if life were conspiring in your favor? That is your energetic navigation system at work. When you notice this, when you feel aligned, the energy around you starts to vibrate differently. What once seemed like a chaotic mix of sensations and emotions now begins to make sense. But here comes an essential point. You also start to notice when the energy isn't right. When something is out of sync, you can feel it. And this is crucial. Often you will find yourself facing choices that seem challenging, but your ability to perceive these small discrepancies in the energy around you becomes a reflection of what you should avoid. Your emotional radar is protecting you, guiding you, showing you where the path isn't worth pursuing. This is the true key to understanding the power of sensitivity. When you realize that your emotions are a way to perceive what resonates with you and what doesn't, you start living more fully. You learn to follow your own intuition and make choices that, instead of draining you, rejuvenate you. Your sensitivity transforms from something you wanted to hide into something you choose to embrace. Now you're able to select the environments, people, and situations that resonate with your essence. And with each choice, you delve deeper into this process of alignment and self-discovery. And the journey continues, because now you realize your sensitivity will never be a burden but rather a gift. Your emotional navigation system is leading you exactly where you need to be, and with that, you start to notice what truly matters in your life. You have begun to see that your sensitivity, once viewed as vulnerability, was not something to be fixed but something to be cultivated. It became increasingly clear, as if the internal filters that once distorted what you felt started to fine-tune. Each emotional sensation became clearer, and with this clarity, you came to understand the deep connection that exists between your feelings and the energies of the world around you. When you were younger, you may not have realized that your emotions were maps, guides to lead you toward what was right or safe. Now, you understand that every feeling that arises has a profound meaning. Fear, anxiety, joy, sadness, all are alert signals. They are not just reactions but responses. Responses that you have begun to listen to with more attention and respect. You started to notice that throughout your journey, you had to learn to trust this navigation system. It wasn't an immediate process. It's not easy to trust something that has always been seen as a vulnerability, something that often made you feel exposed or insecure, but over time it became clearer that each feeling wasn't a mistake or a weakness. It was, in fact, a reflection of what was in harmony with your essence and what wasn't. When you realized this, a wave of relief washed over you. You no longer needed to fight against your sensitivity. On the contrary, you could use it to protect yourself and make choices that were more aligned with your true nature. Now, when you enter an environment, there is something within you that senses the place. You perceive the energy of the people even before you approach them. You know, almost instantly, whether you should continue or take a step back. Like an emotional radar, you scan the energy of the space, the situation, and the people around you. And from there, you begin to make decisions. The feeling you have is not merely one of reacting to external stimuli, but of acting in tune with a deeper wisdom, something that goes beyond intellect and connects directly with your intuition. You began to make more conscious choices, more aligned with what your soul needed, not with what the world said you should want. Previously, you might have felt pulled by external pressures, by the need to please or fit in. But when you realized that your emotions were a reflection of your true nature, everything changed. You began to recognize that pleasing others was no longer your priority. What truly mattered was pleasing yourself, being in harmony with your own energy. And for that, the choices you made needed to be guided by what you felt, by how your body and soul responded to those situations. And so, your journey became more authentic. It wasn't about following a predetermined or expected path, but about taking the route that on a deep level made sense for you. By listening to yourself, you began to notice when something was wrong. And most importantly, you started to take action, to make changes. In the past, you might have felt trapped in situations that didn't make sense, but now you've realized that you have the strength to take control of your life. The key was not to ignore what you felt, but to pay attention to those feelings, as if they were compasses guiding you on what to pursue and what to leave behind. Have you ever had that feeling of being exactly where you were meant to be, even if it wasn't the right place from a logical or practical standpoint? The sensation that you were being guided by something greater, something beyond the rational. This is the power of your sensitivity. Your ability to connect with your own essence has brought you this clarity. When you realize that each emotional sensation is interlinked with the flow of the universe, you become more capable of distinguishing what is in harmony with you and what is not. You notice that the people you connect with, the situations you experience, all of it is a manifestation of your ability to navigate the energies around you. As you developed this refined perception, pathways began to unfold before you. Decisions that once seemed difficult or even impossible now become clear. When you connect with your sensitivity, a confidence emerges. It's no longer blind confidence, but a trust grounded in the perception of what is truly important to you. The answers come from within, not from outside. And more than ever, you know that what you feel is legitimate and real. Now every choice is an expression of your inner self. When you realize that your sensitivity is in fact the most precise navigation system you can have, you free yourself from the need to seek external validation. Your truth becomes enough. You also begin to notice that situations that once seemed chaotic or complicated are now handled with serene clarity. You no longer react to stimuli. You act with wisdom and alignment. And as you perceive this new alignment, you start to live a more fluid life. It doesn't mean that everything will be easy or without challenges. But now you know how to react, how to behave, and how to follow the signals your emotional system gives you. It's a constant dance, a harmony with the energies around you. Instead of fighting against these energies, you learn to ride them, to move with the flow. What you realize now is that this journey has no end. It is a continuous process of self-discovery and refinement. As you connect more deeply with your essence, you increasingly see that life is a series of moments of alignment, of attunement to what is genuine and true for you. And with that comes peace. The peace of being exactly where you need to be, of living each moment with the certainty that you are being guided by something greater. Now you begin to notice a profound transformation. Every moment of alignment with your sensitivity brings you closer to the person you truly are. This journey is not linear, and often you will find yourself challenged to reassess choices or revisit paths. But as you move forward, you become stronger. Your sensitivity becomes a force not just for protection, but for moving with more freedom and confidence. You will gradually realize that you are creating a space where your authenticity is undeniable. The power of being yourself is no longer a struggle, but a natural acceptance of what you feel, what you need, and what your soul craves. And when you are in tune with this, you start to notice that the world around you begins to respond differently. Where there was once resistance, there is now flow. Where there was once doubt, there is clarity. And by doing this, you free yourself from the shackles of insecurity and external pressure. By understanding that your sensitivity is your greatest asset, you begin to live with more confidence. You no longer see yourself as someone who needs approval, but as someone who is guided by their own intuition. And this is what will allow you to navigate any situation at any moment, with the assurance that by trusting what you feel, you will always be on the right path. You realize that throughout this journey of self-discovery and understanding, your sensitivity has transformed into an irreversible strength. It is no longer a weakness or a burden, but a direct connection to what is real, to what is true for you. The perception that once seemed fleeting and vague is now solid and secure. Your internal navigation system is finely tuned, like a precision instrument guiding your decisions, your choices, and above all, your energy. Every step you take is fueled by this subtle strength. The situations that once seemed uncertain are now embraced with the confidence of someone who knows that the energy you emit and receive is in harmony with your truth. You no longer lose yourself in external confusion. You know what to push away and what to embrace. Every emotion, every sensation guides you, and you realize that by living this way, something magical happens. You begin to attract the experiences, people, and situations that resonate with your essence. Your energy reflects the inner peace that now resides in you, and this begins to shape the reality around you. The power of being sensitive, of perceiving energies, of trusting your emotional GPS becomes the key to a life of greater freedom, authenticity, and above all, protection. By living in alignment with your true nature, you now navigate the world with the confidence that you are exactly where you need to be, and everything around you responds to this truth. Now you know, sensitivity is your greatest strength, and this is just the beginning.